I never thought I'd be the type to get caught up in anything too crazy. I mean, my life was pretty simple. Just work, come home, maybe watch some TV, and repeat. But things changed one night. Now I can't shake the feeling that I'm losing my mind. It started like any other evening. I was at home, just relaxing on the couch after a long day. The news was on, and they were talking about this serial killer that had everyone on edge. It was their fourth victim, some poor soul found in an alley, beaten and bloody. I felt a chill run down my spine, thinking how awful it was that someone could do something like that. But then I shook it off. Things like that happen to other people, not to me. That's when the phone rang. It was odd because I wasn't expecting anyone to call. I almost didn't answer it, but something pushed me to pick up. "Hello?" I said, a bit cautiously. There was a pause on the other end, just long enough to make me uncomfortable. Then a voice, quiet but familiar, said, "Clara, you need to listen to me. There's a killer in your house." I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. "What are you talking about? Who is this?" The voice on the other end sounded eerily like mine, but older, more worn out. "There's no time to explain. You need to get out of the house right now. He's close. Please, Clara, you have to trust me." I didn't know what to do. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I started to feel dizzy. Didn't make any sense, but the fear in the voice made me pause. I hung up, trying to convince myself it was some kind of sick joke. But then the phone rang again. I hesitated, but picked it up. The same voice, more frantic now, said, "Clara, don't hang up. He's in the house. You don't have much time. You need to grab a knife from the kitchen and lock yourself in the bathroom." I started shaking uncontrollably. This couldn't be happening. "Who are you?" I whispered. Voice broke into a sob. "I'm you, Clara. I'm trying to save you. Please, do what I'm saying before it's too late." My legs felt like jelly as I stumbled toward the kitchen. Every sound in the house felt amplified, like I could hear every creak and rustle. I grabbed a knife, clutching it tightly, and backed into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I was breathing so hard I thought I might pass out. For what felt like an eternity, I just stood there, listening. The voice on the phone kept giving instructions, telling me to stay quiet, to listen for any sounds, to be ready if the door burst open. It felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Then there was a noise, like someone shuffling around in the hallway outside the bathroom. My heart nearly stopped. I held my breath, praying that whoever, or whatever, it was would go away. "Clara, he's outside the door," the voice on the phone whispered. "He knows you're in there. You need to be ready." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. I was so scared I could barely think straight. Then, I caught a glimpse of something in the bathroom mirror. A shadow, just outside the door, moving slowly. I didn't dare move. I just stood there, knife in hand, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. The shadow stayed still, like it was waiting for me to make the first move. Then, suddenly, the shadow vanished. The voice on the phone was silent too. I stood there for what felt like hours before I finally worked up the courage to unlock the door. I opened it just a crack, peeking out, but there was no one there. The house was silent, almost too silent. I thought maybe it was over, that I'd somehow escaped whatever was supposed to happen. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. I could still feel something wrong, like a lingering presence, watching me. That night, I had the most horrible dream. I was in an old, abandoned church, standing in front of an altar. There was something hidden beneath the floorboards, something evil. I could hear it whispering to me, calling my name. I tried to leave, but my feet wouldn't move. I was trapped. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart racing. The dream felt so real, like a memory more than anything else. But I had never been to that church before. At least, I didn't think I had. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. I started to doubt the voice on the phone. What if it wasn't trying to help me? What if it was leading me into a trap? I decided I had to find out more about that church. Couldn't explain why, but I knew it held some kind of answer. The voice had said it was trying to save me. But what if it was just another part of this nightmare? I couldn't just sit around and wait for something else to happen. I had to know the truth. I grabbed my jacket and headed out, not even sure where I was going. I just knew I needed to find that church. I drove around town, my eyes scanning every corner, every old building. Felt like I was chasing a ghost, something just out of reach. But then I saw it. Crumbling old church at the edge of the city, half hidden by trees and overgrown bushes. It looked exactly like the one in my dream. My hands were shaking as I parked the car and got out. Place felt wrong, like it had been forgotten by time. I hesitated at the entrance, but then I heard the voice again, not on the phone this time, but in my head. Clara, you need to see what's inside. You need to remember. Remember? The words sent a jolt of fear through me. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked under my feet. It was cold, colder than it should have been, and I could see my breath in front of me. The altar was just like in my dream, and as I approached, I noticed something strange. The floorboards in front of it looked newer, like they had been replaced recently. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I knelt down and started prying at the boards, my fingers raw and bleeding by the time I managed to lift them. What I saw underneath made my blood run cold. There were bodies, dozens of them, all hidden in a makeshift grave. The smell hit me first, the stench of death and decay, but it was the faces that stopped me dead in my tracks. I recognized every single one of them. They were the faces of people I had known, friends, co-workers, even strangers I had passed on the street. Mr. Dawson, the kind old man from down the hall, stared up at me with wide, glassy eyes. His mouth was frozen in a silent scream, his face a mask of agony. Next to him was Monica, my coworker, her body limp and lifeless. And the worst part? They were all staring up at me with hollow, accusing eyes. I stumbled back, horrified. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of sick joke. And then the memories started flooding back. It was like a dam breaking, releasing a torrent of images and sensations that I had buried deep within my mind. I saw myself approaching Mr. Dawson one night as he returned from the store. I moved quickly, silently, my heart cold and steady. His eyes widened in shock as I plunged a knife into his chest. The warmth of his blood soaking my hands, the memory shifted. Now I was with Monica, cornering her in the empty office parking lot late at night. She had begged for her life, tears streaming down her face. My hands had been so steady as I tightened the wire around her neck, cutting off her screams. The scenes came faster and faster, each more horrific than the last. I saw myself stalking my victims, planning their deaths with meticulous detail. I remembered the thrill, the dark satisfaction I felt as I watched the life drain from their eyes. It was like watching a movie, except I was the star, the killer in every frame. I collapsed on the floor, my mind spinning. How could I have done this? I wasn't a killer. But then I realized something even more terrifying. The voice on the phone, the one that had been warning me, wasn't trying to save me. It was trying to remind me of who I really was. Part of me, a dark, twisted part, had been doing this all along. And now, it wanted me to finish the job. I don't know how long I sat there staring at those bodies, but eventually, I forced myself to get up. I had to leave, to get away from this place before it consumed me completely. But as I turned to go, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing in the doorway was a figure, shrouded in darkness. It was me, or at least a twisted version of me, with those same dead eyes. It smiled, and I knew that this was the part of me that had done all those horrible things. I ran, not looking back, not caring where I ended up. Just needed to get away. But no matter how far I ran, I could still feel it behind me, like a shadow I couldn't escape. Now, as I sit here, writing this down, I can feel it watching me, waiting for me to give in. I don't know how much longer I can resist. But if you're reading this, please, stay away from that church. Stay away from me.